This weekend, I watched the currently available 3 episodes of a new adult animated show on TBS known as Final Space, and I said the following words. Okay, so I've watched the currently released episodes of Final Space, and I have to say, I'm very happy that someone else on this planet knows that you can create an animated TV show for adults that doesn't rely on swearing, sex, or immaturity to be engaging. Kudos, creators. After publishing this tweet, I began to think more in depth about the state of adult animation lately, and how often that term of being adult in animation is constantly misused. In essence, claiming that your animated series or movie is adult because it boasts raunchy jokes, copious amounts of sex, nudity, drugs, violence, and gore, and has the ability to use swear words in its dialogue is untrue. It is a myth, and I will now explain why. Now please keep in mind that any comments made here are not necessarily indicative of the overall quality of the cartoons featured unless otherwise specified. Historically, what you would call mainstream animation began as a medium for adults to enjoy, for the most part. However, these were mostly all comedies that sought to soothe the masses with humor due to all the horrific things happening in the world at the time. These were considered adult content, and by today's standards, some could still be classified as that for their depictions of alcohol and tobacco consumption. However, what we now define as adult content is anything that isn't suitable for younger audiences, i.e. everything I listed before. As such, we quarantine these animated series and movies into specific networks and time slots to keep the children from ever seeing them until they're old enough. But does this blocking off of content for children truly make something adult? In my humble opinion, no, it doesn't. I've touched upon this topic a couple times in my reviews up till this point, but have never gone into more detail about it. Obviously, what people consider inappropriate for children varies culturally and by country, so this is not a blanket statement for all animation markets. However, in the North American market, we have seen a rise in animated content that is purportedly for children, as it airs during a non-adult time slot and on non-adult exclusive networks, yet are arguably not for children in many aspects. Shows like Gravity Falls, Voltron Legendary Defender, Steven Universe, Adventure Time, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Troll Hunters, Star vs. the Forces of Evo, Lego Ninjago Masters of Spinjitzu, Over the Garden Wall, and many more. All of these can be undoubtedly classified as children's cartoons due to their lack of any obscene or immoral material, yet they have a much larger viewer base of young adults and adults rather than children. Why is that? Well, one thing that all of these cartoons have in common is one simple thing: drama. These shows connect with their older audiences through their use of rigid linear narratives with fluctuating amounts of drama and levity that are heavily tied to the characters and their varying personalities and predicaments. Of course, these aren't the only examples of such cartoons, but there are some of the most significant contributors in the past while. Now, that isn't to say that all children's cartoons are like this, because of course they aren't. You wouldn't see someone arguing the narrative complexity of shows like Breadwinners or Pickle and Peanut on the same level as Gravity Falls or Steven Universe, would you? And not every children's cartoon that attempts drama turns out so well, but that's another topic entirely. So then, if these ostensibly comedy drama children's cartoons are allowed to air during times when actual children are watching, then they are being exposed to potentially frightening and heavy themes alongside the comedic and more lighthearted moments. Yet networks, content creators, and executives rarely do anything to stop this. But again, why is that? If their concern is keeping things that are inappropriate for children away from the children, then why is the rise in more drama-heavy cartoons airing under the guise of children's entertainment becoming more and more prevalent? Well, there's a simple answer for that. In short, what is perceived to be adult content, with that being sex, nudity, drugs, alcohol, racy jokes, violence, gore, and general profanity, is blocked off from children because it is deemed harmful to them, in the same way that we have age limits for many things that are damaging to the body or mind, like alcohol, gambling, and tobacco. Yet drama is not seen as harmful, or at least not in the same way as the things mentioned earlier, and so it's allowed to pass through the network's filters with increasing leniency as time goes on. This is a very, very good thing, since, for a rather long time, the vast majority of animation for children could only be mindless, inane drivel that shuffled in for 20 minutes and then left, leaving no impression on anyone. But wait, doesn't that sound familiar? When we look at so-called adult animation and why it's called that in the first place, we oftentimes fail to see the connection between vapid, pointless media for children and vapid, pointless media for adults, and that many times they're exactly the same. They do absolutely nothing to challenge the viewer and only want your butt in front of the screen so you can mindlessly digest what you're fed and then shuffle on without a care. Objectively speaking, they're exactly the same. The only discernible difference is all the obscene and inappropriate content that adult animation has. But let me clarify that notion by reiterating something I said in my heavy metal review from way back when. Yeah, it's got titties, pussies, drugs, and it's violent as all fuck, but that's not what makes someone or something adult. After all, you can take a child's conversation to boobies and poopies and change the word to titties and shit, but the conversation still has the exact same amount of depth to it. This is where the show Final Space comes in, and the cartoons I consider to be the true adult cartoons. Why do I consider Final Space, a show completely void of profanity, nudity, drugs, and other adult themes, to be a true adult cartoon, whereas I condemn shows like Mr. Pickles, The Nut Shack, Family Guy, Brickleberry, and Big Mouth for being just children's shows with an adult-like veneer? Well, consider this. What is the thing that separates a child from an adult beyond just the age difference? It is not the words we can say, or the things we can do. After all, any child can say the word fuck or touch a boob. Any child can drink a can of beer or smoke a cigarette. It's not permissible by society, true, but it's still not physically out of their hands. No, what separates children and adults is the ability to be respected by others around you. When you are a child, you are allowed to take nothing seriously, but you're given no respect. Your thoughts, feelings, and ideas are dismissed by adults because you haven't had the time to figure out what you're doing, or you just don't know any better. Everything you do or say is not taken seriously because you are a child, a naive idiot in the eyes of others, and you're not yet ready to be a respected member of society yet. We don't challenge children because we don't believe they can handle it yet. After all, when you see a respected member of society you listen to having a massive meltdown for stupid or unjustifiable reasons, you instantly stop respecting them. You no longer see them as an equal member of society because of their lack of respect for you. In your eyes, they are acting immature and like a child, and so they deserve no respect from you. This, to me, is what truly separates all media in terms of what is for children and what is for adults, the level of respect it has for its audience and what it believes they can handle. When you dissect all these adult shows and take a good look at their inner workings, you'll find that most of them have a severe lack of respect for their audience. They do not trust you with the ability to grasp anything more challenging than jokes about sex, or shit, or a big breast, or just an overall juvenile motif. Yet, because they use subjects that are barred off from children because of society's dictums, we instantly feel as though they are adult for watching them and don't ask for anything more. But this is where an inherent problem lies with that sentiment. It allows creators to get away with being lazy because its audience doesn't ask for anything more. Giving more is difficult, and many creators don't do it because it requires an increase in thought and commitment to the characters and scenarios that are presented in their creations. And if you scrutinize many of these adult cartoons' characters and scenarios, many of them boil down to just being far too simplistic and completely unable to sustain depth of any kind. To hammer this point in, these purported adult series don't take themselves seriously, and therefore they don't take you seriously, because by watching it, you didn't ask for it. They don't think you can handle more, so they don't give you more. Really, can you honestly look at something like Family Guy, The Simpsons, or Squidbillies and say with a straight face that you take them seriously? Now, of course, that doesn't mean you can't enjoy them, but there's a difference between enjoying something and taking something seriously. Many people adore movies like Food Fight and Cool Cat Saves the Kids, but you'd never in a million years hear them say that they take them seriously. The amount of serious does not dictate the amount of enjoyment you can potentially get from an adult animation, but it does perpetuate a complicated issue that persists to this day: people becoming complacent with mediocrity in adult animation. People becoming okay with the increasingly blasé attitude that animation companies have towards their adult productions is a dangerous mindset, to be sure, because it allows creators to not care and still turn a profit. It goes hand in hand with the meme culture that bleeds into every corner of the internet, and people don't ask for anything more than cheap laughs, non sequiturs, and random humor nowadays with their adult shows so they can make them into easy memes. As such, we have seen the collapse of shows like Family Guy, which has become so insanely lazy and uncaring in its later seasons that every single episode structurally has the literal exact same beginning, middle, and end. No joke. And we cannot allow this to become the norm in adult animation. If content creators know that all they need to get you coming back week after week is some hastily written sex jokes, shit jokes, and meme fodder, they will eventually ride their side of the industry into the ground with their idleness, and have absolutely nothing to show for it, which is something I truly do not want to see happen. The only series that are inarguably for adults I've seen that manage to pull off heavy themes and respect their audience at the same time are Bojack Horseman, The Venture Brothers, Moral Oral, and the aforementioned newcomer Final Space. But there may be more I'm not aware of. Of course, there are plenty of examples of adult animated shows that don't go for the heavy stuff, but are still extremely entertaining in their own right for using the designated adult content. Those are commendable for sure, but again, they're not the focus here. So, where does that leave us then? We've established that the ability to be respected is what makes a distinction between children and adults in society, and so the same can be said about animation. When a show you watch is supposedly for kids, but it takes the time to make you connect with its characters, narratives, and scenarios, you know that the creators have put in the effort to make sure that they respect you as a viewer, and therefore you respect them for their labors, i.e., you can take it seriously. Shows like Lego Ninjago, Masters of Spinjitzu, and Generator Rex know that just because they air in a children's time slot doesn't mean they have to treat the viewer like a child. Preferably, a show should dole out and receive respect in equal sums. It's when that balance is shifted that problems arise. A good example is Spongebob Squarepants, a show not meant to be taken seriously in its earlier seasons, yet it still treated its audience with respect in its slapstick comedy and simple, yet well-defined characters, so kids and adults alike respected it and enjoyed it in turn. After the movie came out, however, the show quickly devolved into nothing but cheap, easy, gross-out humor, constant noise, and an overall quickened pace that turned most adult viewers away with its blatant lack of respect towards them. Now, the purpose of this editorial isn't to say that everything needs to be dramatic and serious all the time. Everyone needs release from the increasingly horrible world around us, and comedy helps us do that. I would never, even for one moment, suggest that everything needs to be heavy and depressing for us to enjoy it. I appreciate raunchy humor as much as the next guy, but I appreciate it on a base level. I'll usually laugh at a fart joke or a well-timed profanity, but I won't go scour the internet for in-depth theories on why I laughed at that fart joke or profanity. I already know the reason why I laughed. There's no depth to it, so I won't think about it after it's done. Concurrently, I am still thinking about Gravity Falls and Wander Over Yonder years after they've finished airing, along with many other shows that are described as being for children, yet I have enjoyed well into my 20s, because I know that there's something worth thinking about. The creators gave me, and all of us, something to care about, because they cared about what they made too. They challenged us, respected us, and that's why I know I can proudly say that I love these children's cartoons, even though I am a fully grown adult. So maybe consider this video next time you boast about how adult a cartoon is because it pointed out that a black character was black, or that it showed a guy puking on a naked woman. If anything, those shows are what I call animation for adults, because they air in time slots devoted to content not suitable for children. The true adult animations are the ones that challenge you with themes and ideas that may not always be cheery, but they do make you think regardless of your age. It all comes down to a matter of respect from everyone involved, the creators and the viewers. And in my eyes, only when you can reconcile the fun and happiness with the dark and sadness do you become a true adult.